Okay, you're looking at a slide off of a Smith & Wesson PPC 9, and it has a TS-45 tri-set rear sight on it. That's an Aristocrat tri-set rear sight. Now, I'm going to show you how to remove the tri-set rear sight assembly, because that is necessary if any repair is needed to the rear blade or sight base itself. But to start that, we're going to need a 1/16 Allen wrench, and this single set screw forward of the 3 adjusting screws needs to be removed completely before trying to remove the pivot pin. I'll explain why. Now, this is another pin, and hopefully you can see that notch in there. When assembled, as you see it in that slide, this set screw, it's a 540 set screw, sits into that notch and keeps this pin from walking back and forth during firing. So it's very important to remove that screw completely before trying to drift that pin out, or it will damage the pin and the screw. Now I got my 1/16 Allen wrench, and I'm going to remove the single set screw by turning counterclockwise up and out all the way. Now that is out. I get my gunsmith block. Vise can be used as well too, depending on the tools available. Now I have a 1/16 drift punch. You can use anything, and of course it has to be under 3/32. And then we're going to drift this out. Try to get my hands in a better position here. It doesn't take too much. They come out fairly easily. It's just a light press fit. And we're done with that at the moment. Now the rear leaf can be removed, and any work that needs to be performed to this can be done much easier. And the second thing on a TS-45 is the mounting base that's milled into the slide. It is held in by the 2 mounting screws, 2 6/48 mounting screws. And they are, if installed correctly, will have Loctite on them. You do need to check the base periodically with all the firing, especially on autos with all that recoil. Sometimes these can work loose. Usually it's because they weren't installed correctly with Loctite. This one is secure, it is tight. I can check it, I know it's tight, and I'm not going to loosen this particular one. If your problem is this base is loose, these 2 screws need to come out. They need to be inspected to make sure they're not damaged. If they are not, they can be cleaned along with the holes in the slide with a solvent, a rubbing alcohol, prior to re-Loctiting. But Loctite is important. Loctite needs to be reapplied to the screws when remounting this base to make sure it stays secure. However, it does need to be checked periodically. It is on an auto. Now, the next thing I can show you actually is the reassembly of this. This has all been repaired, or it is good and does not need repair. Your rear sight assembly has been repaired, and it is confident it is ready to go. Make sure the elevation spring is in. And in position. One thing I should tell you is, even prior to disassembly of that, make sure the cam is in the number 2 position. It's best for a disassembly that I just showed you. It allows the spring to be in a less tension position, makes it easier to get that pin out and actually back in. Now, for something like this, I would use an alignment pin, which is a few thousandths under diameter of the pivot pin. It makes it easier to get in and keep the front of this sight leaf down and in position to where you can get the actual pivot pin in, because it's a much tighter fit. And this one will actually start on its own, and that's fine. Some do, some don't. It just depends on the wear. And you can take this, and I would raise it up because I'm using the alignment pin. The alignment pin should not fall out, it's under spring tension. And start tapping the pivot pin in, and it's going in. Now, one thing we need to notice, that notch, the before you get it in too far, has to be facing rearward towards that set screw. It needs to be perfectly vertical. So we can tap it in a little further and keep an eye on it to see if it needs any adjustment. And I'm thinking mine will. A little more. We can still see it. And mine needs to be oriented a little more correctly. And that is better. Now we're going to tap this in all the way now. And that is nicely centered. And we're getting free movement there, which we want. Now we can reinstall this set screw. Now this set screw, as you can see, it does not have Loctite on it. I did not have a problem getting it out. It's one concern you might be come across, but not always. You don't know till you try to take it out. If you had a lot of problem, a lot of resistance in removing this, you might want to be aware of that. Now we're going to reinstall the set screw, turning clockwise. If you feel any resistance after a couple turns, that means your notch could be out of position, and you may have to drift the pin back out and realign that notch. In my case, I do not. Now the set screw should start to snug up at flush with the top of the sight, or just slightly below. Mine is all snug in place. Recheck the movement. And now I can also recheck the cam. And it is moving and locking into position just fine. And this is ready to be installed back on the pistol. Now especially on these autos, it is recommended. If you're not sure, you have any question about the base not being tight or some damage to the sight, as always, it is recommended a licensed professional gunsmith do this work. And we do have more instructional videos on our website at aristocratproducts.com.